Okay, good evening, everyone. I'll start again, and welcome to this webinar by CISN. This webinar is very much focused on the course. We've run a big series of webinars this year that have been themed on different topics. But because we're well into the first intake of 2020, we wanted to share some of the experiences of that, because we've got an intake coming in October. So whether you're interested in the course in October, whether you're just interested in the subject matter, that's absolutely fine. You're welcome. So we're going to share with you what is integrative sports nutrition. So I'll give you a few examples of that. I'm Ian Craig, the founder of the Center for Integrative Sports Nutrition, and I'm joined by Simone, who is the co-developer of the course. And we'll share with you concepts of integrative sports nutrition and how the actual course is run. And we'll take questions and interactions. And yeah, we've got a few polls that you can answer, and just for us to find out more about you. Okay. So poll number one, what is your profession? You've got a chat box. If you can just type in the chat box and tell us who you are. And at the same time, you can also tell us poll number two, why you are here. So we're interested in who our audience are. And while we're waiting for that, I'll read them out as they come in. I'm going to start presenting what is integrative sports nutrition. So we've done various webinars before. I'm going to bring a nutshell version together to just give you a bit of insight as to what we're trying to do with the course, what we're trying to do with this concept. We are a company that was formed in 2018, and the company's focus is to teach and educate within this thing called integrative sports nutrition. And the easiest way to explain it is you've got two different worlds out there. If you come from a sporting background, you'll be familiar with sports nutrition. If you come from an integrative nutrition or functional medicine or nutritional therapy kind of background, you'll be used to the integrative way of thinking, the functional way of thinking. But they're two separate things. Sports nutrition is very focused on a quantitative approach, calories, macronutrients, and to a certain degree micronutrients, whereas integrative nutrition is interested in the whole body approach. And that's what we're trying to bring together. We're trying to bridge these areas. And I've been working on this since 2006. So it's been a while now. I used to lecture for the Center for Integrative Sports Nutrition, which is a nutritional therapy college in the UK. And I was tasked with putting on probably the first sports nutrition module that has a functional element of nutritional therapy in it. So that's what I've been trying to do ever since, and that's culminated with this course. So this is an example of standard sports nutrition today. This is from the American College of Sports Medicine, it's from the Dietetics Association in the US and Canada. It's fairly standard macronutrient focus. So we've got our carbs, we've got our proteins, we've got our fats. If you go further into the position statement, yes, we'll bring in micronutrients, but they haven't really evolved to the point of the way we think in integrative practice, that every single recognized micronutrient has a role in the body. It's still very much in the realm of, if it might give a performance gain, they might talk about it. So around 2000, year 2000, ACSM had iron Iron was a single micronutrient in their position statement. Now they have iron, vitamin D, because that's had a ton of research, and recognition of antioxidants. But it doesn't mention all the vitamins, all the minerals, which actually we need to be thinking about, because in biochemistry, they are all used as cofactors for important pathways within the body. So here's just an example. What do you see in front of you? An apple, a broccoli head, and 2 slices of shitty white bread. That's what I see. But in a macronutrient quantitative focus, these are all 20 grams of carbs. So is that the way it should be? I don't think so, because it limits our understanding of that food and that food's interaction with our body. What I see is an apple with pectin in it, which can actually nourish the microbiome. I see broccoli with glucosinolates in it, which can nourish our detox pathways. And I see 2 shitty slices of white bread that will irritate the microbiome. And even if they have the same amount of carbs in them, can have a very, very different effect on us physiologically. So just a very simple example there. So I've made up a performance pyramid, and I want to just kind of start by drawing a line, because in standard practice, we shortchange ourselves a little bit. We draw the line there, and then we talk about performance nutrition. So that's your calories, your macros, to a certain degree, your micros. Nutrient timing is in there, and it's all fundamentally really important, especially for performance athletes. And we need to personalize that to their sport as well. And then we've got sometimes where people start, there's a lot of fairly unqualified practitioners out there who will start here. And it's about the creatines and the branched chain amino acids and the wheys and the sports drinks. We need the performance of food first. But if we take away the black line there and widen the pyramid, we're going to talk about integrative nutrition. We're going to talk about digestion, immune system, musculoskeletal function, neurotransmitter systems, and we'll bring a whole body, whole systems biology approach is what it's called, into our thinking about that athlete. And you might have noticed one of the strap lines on the starting page was where food feeds performance. So basically, if you can nourish a person to good health, then they've got a very strong pyramid platform for performance. Okay, and then I used to just have those 3 layers, and then I met my wife, my current wife, and she's, you'll meet her in a few slides time. She's thoroughly into food. So it really widened my eyes and my scope as well. And the real base is the quality of the food that we can get. Can we trade out something like Tesco's standard vegetables to Waitrose Organic, for example, if you're in the UK? And carrots that you can taste the soil that they came from. I have a memory of my uncle's garden when I chomp into a carrot that's got a flavor. That flavor is carrying the nutritional entities and energy that we need. And when I talk about energy, I don't mean calories. It's a different kind of energy. So we talk about systems. I mentioned the phrase systems biology. So this is a systems biology approach to training. This is how a coach or some kind of conditioning specialist might think, with all the parameters of performance, everything that affects the physiology with regards to a training performance. And you'll see that, you know, if we're into nutrition, it's one component. And that's something, whatever our profession is, we need to recognize it's part of a system. You might be a physiotherapist and work in a certain musculoskeletal way, which integrates with the coach and the training work that the coach does, which integrates with the nutritionist and the inputs they do. And then we've got the Institute for Functional Medicine. If you've been through IFM or nutritional therapy, this should be very, very familiar to you. And it's just, I bring this up, well, I bring the two slides together because they're both kind of integrative systems approach where you get a lot of integration happening. And all of these affect each other. And the usual thing I say about this slide is, if you were a naughty little kid like I occasionally was, you ping one corner of a spider's web and you get a collapse in the whole system. So we need to, the way we work in integrative practice is to identify the weak links within that person's physiology and then really work on that. Maybe there's 2 or 3 of them, but to the benefit of the athlete's health, which then supports the performance when you start stacking in the creatines and the BCAAs and the heavier training loads. And then we add an individuality. So an individuality is not just genetics. Genetics is one aspect, and it's one example of modern day science that's really changing the way we think. And it's great because I see a lot of fairly conventional thinkers starting to go to genetics conferences. So it's genetics, but it's also who we are as a person. So as a practitioner working with somebody, we want to really get to know them, get to know their story, get to know their psychology, get to know what they're an outlier at, because we all have something that we're good at or particularly bad at. We all have something that we have a strength in physiologically and something that we have a weakness that we need to be aware of and try and compensate for. And same with psychology. So I'm going to just give you a quick example of the integrative thinking within the context of sport. So I know some of you have a background in nutritional therapy, so I don't want to sort of preach to the converted, but I just want to give you a more sports context example. So this is one of the lecturers on the course, Catherine. She finished her degree at CNE, where I used to teach, and she did a huge systems analysis, research analysis on gastrointestinal dysfunction in endurance athletes. And of course, endurance athletes are running up and down and bouncing for quite a long time, and they're trying to eat during that time. They might have heat stress. They've certainly got performance stress of pushing their body. I was a middle distance runner, and we needed to do reasonably good mileage during the winter, and I did struggle with gastrointestinal dysfunction, even though, or perhaps because I was following the standard sports dietetic guidelines of the 90s when I was an athlete, which hasn't really changed very much, unfortunately. So I was guzzling carbs like they were going out of fashion, probably having a bit too much shitty white bread. Actually, I was on the wholemeal bread, but that didn't make much difference. And cheese and lots of dairy. So all the standard recommendations, and I had a hard time with my gut. I've now learned a lot. And when I started looking for papers in this area in 2006, I couldn't find anything. Actually, I found one tiny little paper, but it wasn't very good. Now there's a huge amount of data. So Catherine has pulled this together really nicely. If any of you want to read this, I can share it with you. You just need to drop myself or Simone an email. Okay, so here's the example of the integrative thinking. You've got your gastrointestinal tract. Then we've got our immune system. And I've actually taken some notes. I don't normally have notes, but I'll just kind of make sure I cover a few points here. So we understand that give or take 70% of the immune system is in or around our gut. And we also understand that our gut is the home of our microbiome. You've got the words microbiome and you've got the words microbiota. Microbiota is the bugs in our gut. The microbiome is kind of the more general genetic component within the gut. So all of our bugs have genetic components that interface with us. So it's with our genetic components. So it's a really, really exciting area of research, and it's starting to bring that into sports nutrition, which is great. And if you have if you're eating the poor quality food, if you're that causes inflammation, if you're eating food that you're sensitive to and it creates a bit of a reaction, you're going to upset your microbiome. You're going to potentially create leaky gut syndrome or intestinal permeability, which will affect the immune system. So it's now recognized, you know, just even in general practice, that to nourish your immune system, look after your gut. So probiotics, for example, are recognized as a good way to nourish the immune system. But it's not just about the immune system. Okay, and then we've got the musculoskeletal system. And as an example, as an athlete, I used to get depressed when I was injured, and I would drink more beer and I would eat more jam donuts. And I recognize it was the very wrong thing to do, because I was just inducing a huge inflammatory response in my body. They're both sugar, artificial stuff in the jam, and beer, alcohol, you know, they're all recognized as pro-inflammatory mediators now, which would be revving up my immune system in a negative way and creating inflammatory cytokine response against my joints and my muscles. So it was delaying my recovery. So that's important. If you have gastrointestinal imbalance, it can map out to any place in the body, and that's essentially what autoimmunity is. But if you're talking about a 25-year-old fit athlete, they probably don't have autoimmunity, but they certainly can have unbalanced inflammation that's halting their recovery process. And then we get the mitochondria, which is another huge area of research interest nowadays. We have to remember the mitochondria. In an exercise setting, mitochondria are in our muscles, and we need to nourish that to produce energy for muscular activity. But mitochondria is in every organ system in our body. So if we're not nourishing our mitochondria sufficiently, not only do we not have enough energy for training, we don't have enough energy for recovery, we don't have enough energy for detoxification, for nice regular heart rhythms, for brain cells, for keeping us away from depression or anxiety, which are common traits in athletes who are pushing too hard. The mitochondria is the seat of macronutrient conversion into ATP energy, which comes from the gut, you know, our digestion and absorption. But we also need the micronutrients that are involved in the Krebs cycle. So your B vitamins, your zinc, magnesium, iron, you need coenzyme Q10, all of which can come through dietary sources through the gut membrane. And lastly, with that, if you've got inflammation and oxidative stress on the gut level, it's going to map out into your mitochondria, and the mitochondrial membrane are very sensitive to damage, including toxicity from liver overload. Okay, so all processes are important for the athlete. And last, but certainly not least, is the gut-brain axis. So I'm seeing some really encouraging growth in the sports nutrition area with regards to microbiome and probiotics and how do we nourish that microbiome. And that will feed up to the brain, because a healthy gut will help the brain be more healthy in terms of neurotransmitter balance. But the other way around applies as well. And I would say I've been in practice for a long time now. And I probably, on a gut case, which there are many, every second person, I probably work half and half physical and mental emotional now to try and work on that, because it's so important. And one example is a pre-eating strategy that I give to people, and that's to activate the cephalic or the anticipation part of the digestion. If you're relaxed, if the parasympathetic nervous system is in dominance when you're eating, you're more likely to digest, you're more likely to assimilate your food. So the whole cascade from top to bottom, if you imagine a waterfall going down. If you get a strong flow of water at the top of the waterfall, it will be strong at the bottom. So often there's pathology or imbalance, say, on the colon. And yes, we'll go straight in with probiotics to try and help that. But if they don't have enough stomach acid because they're stressed when they're eating their sandwich at lunchtime sitting on their computer, or because they've just done a hard training session and they haven't let the nervous system settle yet, then they're going to have problems lower down, okay? So that's the kind of integrative thinking just from a gut example. All right, so let's just give you a sneak preview of the certificate course. There's 3 main modules, and this is a kind of progressive approach. Firstly, the integrative nutrition that I've just talked about. Secondly, into performance nutrition. So that is going into the calories, or rather the limitations of calories, body composition, the macronutrients, the fluids, the electrolytes, what else is in there, endocrine, overtraining, things like that that you'd find in a sports nutrition, sports medicine perspective. And then module 3 is more specialized. It's lots of different specialist practitioners with different topics. And then this year, this is brand new this year, is from my wife, my better half, who is passionate about food. She's passionate about food sourcing. She's passionate about real energetics. And she took, a couple of years ago, she undertook a new course in natural sports cookery. She's got a sports science background, ex-triathlete, national triathlete in South Africa. And she's done this course, which is amazing. It's blowing my mind. And she's now a teacher for the Institute. So she's kindly said she'll create a module 4 for us, which will be very, very applied. Okay, so this is on the website. Here's the tag of the website. Module 1, we've got gut, detox, endocrine, musculoskeletal, immunology, bioenergetics, and functional medicine, and genetics and individuality. And then module 2, calories, body comp, macros, nutrient timing, hydration, hypertrophy, calories revisited, overtraining, and each module has a live performance consultation or a live consultation. Okay, so we recruit through social media somebody, and this year we've been doing it all online. Normally we'd do it in the class in Kingston. And then module 3. So lots of different things. This is on the website, so you can have another look through it as and when you want to. And here's Rachel. And the types of language is just different from if you buy a sports nutrition cookbook, you won't find this language. It's very different. So language of intuitive and creative cooking, energetic nutrition, food sourcing, the compositions, and then obviously creating it into a good environment for an athlete. Okay, and then if you want to just dig around the website a little bit, I recommend you go to this resources section. We've got blogs and articles. We've got recordings of all these webinars. And here's some video samples. So we do like 1 to 2 minute video sections of different lecturers talking about different things. So it'll give you a sense of a few bits and bobs that we include in the course. Okay, and then we do have certifications with the nutritional therapy underpinning of the course. The NTEC provides the short course certification. And then we've got CPDs from BANT and BASES. So the types of people we're attracting are both nutritional therapists. We're now getting dietitians this year, which is great. And we're also getting sports scientists and physiologists and strength and conditioning specialists, and 1 or 2 other professions. So we're trying to cover, if you're a nutritional therapist and already understand the integrative model, let's train you in sports And if you're into sports, but you haven't learned the integrative, you'll get that as well. Okay, here's the core team. I like to be surrounded by pretty girls. So there's Simone, who's on the call tonight, and my wife, Rachel. And then below, we've got Mimi, who's our social media expert, who is a nutritional therapist and practitioner herself. And then Helder, who's our IT guru, who basically set up the whole system that Simone's about to share with you. Okay, so here we go for the tour. As Simone gets going, I'll unshare my screen, but as she gets going with us, if you've done an online course before, give us some feedback. What did you like? What did you not like? Because there's lots of different types of online courses nowadays. Okay, so I'm going to unshare now, and Simone will share her screen.
Hey guys, so I'm Simone. I'm the course coordinator. So I help Ian coordinate the course, and I'm also doing a bit of lecturing this year. So I thought I'd give you a quick overview, a tour of our new online platform. It's called Moodle. So I'm just going to share my screen. Just trying to find. Okay. So hopefully you can see that, the online platform. So this is my view. And I'm showing you my view because there's no restrictions. When you're a student on the course, there's a lot of restrictions. And this is to try and create a structure around the course. So you have to basically, to complete a lecture, you have to complete a quiz, and that will unlock the subsequent lecture. Okay, but before we get there, I'm just going to give you a general overview. So when you log in, the first thing that you'll notice are these two videos. So this is the first one is an intro video by Ian, just giving an introduction about the course and what to expect. And then we have the second video, which is done by Helder, our IT guru, and he does a little video tutorial about Moodle. And then underneath these videos, you'll find some general information. So we have an announcement section where me or Ian will do announcements, important announcements about the course. You also have a social forum just below the announcements where you can interact with students on the course, ask questions about the course. So yeah, it gives you that opportunity to interact with peers. And then you'll find some important documentation that you'll need, like the course handbook, a spreadsheet, or sorry, a PDF with important dates. So these important dates are your assignment hand-in dates and your compulsory webinars or online meetings.
Simone, that pop-up didn't open on my screen.
Ooh.
Yeah, just seeing it black.
I don't know how to share it.
Yeah, just describe what's there.
Okay, so it's basically a PDF sheet with important dates for your assignments and all your compulsory webinars and online meetings. I've also created a suggested weekly schedule to give you a bit of structure. There's some lecture download instructions, so you can watch the lectures live on the platform. They're pre-recorded, or you can download them to watch them offline. And then this link is just like a meeting link. So for every webinar, tutorial, online meetings, you can just click this link and you have instant access. So you don't have to go looking at your mailbox to find the link. Then we go into each module. So we have, for example, module 1. Each module has a pre and a post module webinar and online meeting. And these are compulsory for the course. We also brought in tutorials this year, just because we really focused on the online aspect of the course. We were going to do it live, but because of the restrictions associated with COVID, we had to focus really on the online course. So we decided to bring in tutorials to support students' learning, to increase the engagement, and it allows lecturers to come in and update any research if needed. So then the lectures, so there's 10 lectures in total, and according to the suggested weekly schedule that I showed you here at the top, you would do 2 lectures per week, and then we would have the tutorial on a Friday. The tutorial lasts for about an hour. Each lecture is about, it's 3 hours each lecture, and each lecture has 2 parts. So if you go into one lecture as an example, so the integrative model.
Simone, can I just add,
Yeah.
so on those tutorials, we bring in whoever the lecturer was for those videos for that week.
Yeah.
So it gives you the opportunity to interact and ask questions.
Thanks, Ian. So then we have, so yeah, you click in one lecture. So we're using integrative module as an example. You'll find required reading. So this is the reading that you would do before viewing the lecture. Then each lecture has 2 parts. So it breaks it up a little. And each part is around an hour and a half max. So just to give you a little sneak peek of the lecture.
So thanks, guys. I'm very, very appreciative of you coming all the way to Kingston and listening to me blather for a few days. I'll start with a few things to expect with this module.
Okay, so as you can see, you can watch the lecture on Moodle or download it to watch it offline. Then you have the presentation slides, which you can download. And then you have a reading for interest section. So these are not required, but we do recommend that you read through any of these articles, and most of them are mentioned in the lecture. So that's an example of one of the lectures. So when you complete a lecture, you would then complete the associated quiz. So just as an example, and each quiz has roughly 6 questions, 5-6 questions. So you would complete the quiz. You have to get 100%, but you have unlimited attempts. And once you've completed the quiz and passed with 100%, you can then, that unlocks the following lecture. So your genetics lecture, which is grayed out because you have to complete the quiz to unlock the following lecture. Then, so we start with the webinar for the first week. Then we have the online meeting, the online meeting the first week, webinar the second week, and then you go into 5 weeks of self-study and you do your lectures in your own time with the tutorials. And then you go into your formative assignment. So this is an assignment which is not graded, but we do ask you to complete it because it is important for your own learning and to support, to help you with your summative assignment. So that's the assignment that's actually graded and contributes to your total mark. So for example, this formative assignment, we're asking you to complete a functional medicine matrix and timeline based on yourself. You would submit that, and then after that, the following 2 weeks, you have your post-module webinar, online meeting, where we will discuss your summative assignment. So for this summative assignment, for example, and all the other summative assignments are case study based. So the learning is very applied, and you can also see the marking grid, so what we're looking for in each assignment. And you submit your assignments on the actual system. So you don't email it to us. Everything is done by Moodle. So I think that's all I have to say about the lectures and the structure of the course. It is a very dynamic platform, so we do add things on a daily basis. We do change things a bit, but it's a very flexible, dynamic platform, and it's very user-friendly and quite intuitive to use. We've had some great feedback from the current students that are on the first intake of the course. There's also a calendar. So you can see all the important dates. So for example, we have the current online intake. They have their online meeting on the 20th, for example. These dates are also included in that sheet that's in the general info section. Okay, so you have both the calendar and the sheets to find the dates. Also, I forgot to mention that part of your required learning, required reading for each lecture, we normally, as for required reading, we do add some articles from the Functional Sports Nutrition magazine because they provide a nice overview of each topic. And as a student on the course, you do get a free subscription for a year for the online magazine. And you also get a free digital copy of Ian's book, Wholesome Nutrition, which is it's a book for the lay person, but it's really good for us practitioners because it helps to explain complex, what's the word? Complex ideas, yes, so that the lay person can understand. So yes, I think that's all I have to say about the online platform. Just trying to think if I've forgot anything. In terms of the grading, how we do the grading. So all your assignments contribute 90% to your overall grade. So those are your summative assignments. And 10%, the remaining 10% is your attendance for the compulsory webinars and online meetings. And we do give an allowance. So if you miss, you have an allowance of 3 out of 12 in total that you can miss. If, for example, you know you're gonna miss more than 3 out of the 12, then we do have an extension form that you can complete and give your reasoning. So we'll take that into account. And all we ask is for students who can't attend a webinar, specifically a webinar, because there's learning involved, we ask them just to watch the recording and to submit a 500-word summary, just so we know that they watched it and they understood the webinar. So yeah, I think that's all from me. It's going to stop my share.
Does anyone have any questions about the Moodle platform before we finish the slides?
Yeah. You can unmute or just type in the chat box if you have any questions. Okay. Right, just shout at any time. Okay, so prices. This is what's advertised on the website. So we've divided it this year into modules 1, 2, 3, or you can book the whole 1, 2, 3, 4 if you'd like to. The 1, 2, 3 is what forms the certificate. The certification that you get is based on those 3, which was the original application we did. Module 4 is added in this year. That will gain extra BANT CPD points, but it's not a requirement to get the certificate. So we've just sort of packaged it up, whether you want to just do the certificate or the whole thing, or maybe add the module 4 later. If you're a prior, the reason we've got this last section is if you're a prior student, so maybe in 2019 you did the course, we change module 3 every single year, and that's because it's a specialist module, and we treat it like a large conference. So if you did it last year and you like the lineup of this year, you can come and go on that. Or even if you haven't done the course, but we recognize that you've got enough qualification to be able to keep up with the course, you can do module 3 or module 4 on its own, okay? We've also got discounts for BANT and BASIS members because that's what we've got the CPDs for. So that's 10% off any of the prices.
We've tried to keep the prices very reasonable at the moment. So if you compare to other online or live sports nutrition courses of a similar length, you'll find it's pretty reasonable pricing. And we're small enough still at the moment not to have to bill VAT, which obviously keeps it a bit less as well. Students actively in a course in their final year or post-grad can get a bigger discount as well. If you're not banter bases, I'm going to give you a discount just for attending this webinar, either tonight or if you're watching the webinar afterwards. We'll give this discount until the end of this week. Okay, so what's the date, Simone? That'll be the 7th, yeah? Friday the 7th?
Yes.
Yes, so discount till Friday the 7th, and here's the prices. So 1990, so taking it just under 2,000 for 1, 2, and 3, or just under 2,600 for the whole lot. Obviously, if you're a banter or bases member, you get below that price anyway. So, but we do get international students, so you might be interested in that further discount. Okay, and here's all our contact details. So because you know about us, you probably understand where our website is and social media and stuff. But please come online and interact and ask questions. Or you can just do the old email thing like I prefer doing and just send us an inquiry email. Okay, and then any questions? So we've kind of slickly taken you through the course and the concepts. So we'll just open up to see if you get any questions. Okay, how long does the whole course 1 to 3 take? Do you want to answer that, Simone?
Yes, so each module basically runs just over 10 weeks. So 10-week cycles. You actually have a little bit extra for the summative assignment. So if you joined the second intake, you would finish, and also considering that, because for module 3, you actually have a longer time period for your assignment because it's based on a real life case study. So you actually have an extra 8 weeks for your summative assignment. And that hand in is on, just double check. I think it's in July sometime next year. So yeah, the 1st of July, that's when you hand in your final summative assignment. But you would finish the lectures before. You would finish it around in May. And then you have until July to submit your summative assignment, which is a 2,000-word case study write-up. Hope that answered your question.
Any other questions? Anything else you want to add, Simone?
No, I think that's it. Yeah. I think that's it. From how many words are the other assignments? So your module 1, module 2, 1,000-word limit. So 1,000 words for each one with a 10% leeway. And then your final one, the module 3, is a 2,000-word assignment. Your formative assignments, so for module 1, it's the timeline and the matrix that you would complete based on yourself. For module 2, the formative assignment is to basically outline a strategy for yourself around a specific event or training session. For module 3, there's no formative assignment. So it's just your summative.
I'll just finish the recording tonight by wrapping up and saying that what we're trying to do is bring together different arenas, different interests. Very often within a certain interest, say sports nutrition, researchers reiterate the same thing and keep researching in the same area. but we like to kind of step out back from the trees and even back from the forest and look at the whole ecosystem. We've got a colleague, Paul, who talks about the ecosystem, which is a great analogy. So he uses it with his clients, and he wants to understand the whole ecosystem of his clients, not just what they're eating and what they're training. What's their finances like? Where are they living? What's their stress levels like? What's their sleep levels like? Who they're interacting with, toxicity levels, so the whole ecosystem of that person, and significant timeline events in their life that could affect how they are today. And we work within science on the ecosystem because if I'm writing something and Simone's the same, we cross disciplines all over the place. We want, if there's something in a different discipline, say neuroscience. I really love psychoneuroimmunology. I think it's fascinating and I think it's powerful, but you don't find that in sports nutrition. You don't find it in sports medicine, but it should be there. So we will write or lecture in a certain area, but cross out of that area to pull further knowledge in and make it more of an integrative approach. So yeah, we include everything that we think is relevant, and I can see the environment changing. As I said earlier, dietitians are starting to go to, say, genetic workshops. You'll have a lot of conventional doctors going to functional medicine conferences and courses, certifications. It's just a matter of time that that sports nutrition starts to change. And even 10 years ago, it did start to change because we had Beetroot Andy on Twitter doing all the beetroot research with endurance athletes. And it was wonderful. They weren't talking about carbs anymore. They were talking about nitrates. So that's wonderful. But let's go from nitrates to lots of other antioxidants and anti-inflammatory components in our food. And let's bring in the energetics of food that Rachel can talk about and bring it all to the athlete. And I think we owe it to an athlete to really nourish them in a much more holistic way, to use a very overused word. But the athletes of today are under so much pressure that just going and getting standard supermarket food applied in a standard mechanistic model is no longer sufficient for them. So that's my final words. And if you're interested in the course, great, please come and engage with Simone and I.